Hey guys, today we're going to work on the three sectional staff. This is half of a two-part system, two different forms that fit together like two pieces of a puzzle, the Chinese spear versus the three sectional. And this comes way back from around 1984 when myself and my friend Mr. Fisher, we took our black belt test together, and our teacher, Master Ron Lee, asked if we could develop a weapons fighting form to present as part of our black belt requirement for an original form. And we had three different versions that we showed to Master Lee. The third one he really liked, and it was a little bit more combative. It had more striking at a faster rate of speed, and it was again the three sectional versus a spear. And he asked if it would be okay to now, from that point on, teach it to all people that are going from brown to black. So if you're a brown belt going for the black belt, you're learning three sectional and spear. This is the three sectional side. We're going to break it into 4 videos. It's kind of a long form, so it's a little bit easier to see and practice. I hope that as you see the different parts that you'll go through them. I'll do them slowly here on video. You do them slow with me, and then go about 5 steps in, and then stop and practice those about 20 times before you attempt to add maybe another 5 steps. This type of form doesn't have a lot of symmetry to it. It's kind of like when you're a kid learning the multiplication tables, maybe in the sevens. They're kind of hard to learn. You almost have to do it by rote memory. You have to just do it over and over and over. And that's true of this form too. So a lot of people consider the three sectional to be one of the most difficult out of all of the weapons to learn. But people who learn it really love it, and they tend to want to practice it all the time. You might think, well, if I'm serious about self-defense and I want to be very good in a street fight, why would I learn an esoteric, outdated weapon like a three sectional or a spear? Well, three sectional in particular is good to learn for 3 reasons. One is, if you're in our martial arts system, the Bok-Fu system, and you're training in West Wind and you're trying to go from brown to black, it is a requirement, so you have to have that for your test. But the more important reason is that the three sectional is a very unpredictable weapon, similar to the 9-section whip. These very flexible weapons are a little harder to control, and they can jump up and bite you all of a sudden when you least expect it. So when that happens, you have to have good problem reaction. You have to be able to get hit by this thing, which doesn't feel good, and be able to keep going. And that's a good skill to have for self-defense, because in a self-defense situation, it's Murphy's Law. Everything's very chaotic. You don't know what's going to happen. You can get hurt. And if you do get hit, you want to be all right with that and not let it phase you. So this can help you in that aspect. It also teaches you the ability to improvise, because when it does go out of control, you are required to still finish the form, not half-heartedly, but as if nothing happened. So that's a really good thing to learn, because that's true, again, of a street fight. Things won't go to plan, and you have to have the ability to instantly improvise and not let something that you construe as a negative, that you forgot a part or something didn't work, you can't let that bother you. You have to get right back into the goal of defeating your opponent. So you do learn a lot from three sectional. It's a really fun form to learn. The new Chaku and the three sectional to me are kind of like a toy. So I hope you enjoy this. We're going to start off with the idea of the salutation. Just prior to that though, let's talk a little bit about the weapon. I'd like you to get one, if possible, that doesn't have the ball bearing connections, but has this more traditional setup, which is metal plates riveted into place with steel chain. And thick steel chain is smart. You don't want this thing to fall apart. They tend to have these extra little links in there, and that's done as a noise distraction to distract the enemy. You want to throw them off in every way you possibly can. One way is auditorily wise, by creating a sound effect that's distracting. So you want these little links. You want to use Chinese waxwood, which is a very durable, flexible wood, almost impossible to break. For my size, these are not ideal. This diameter is a little bit too thin. This is more for like kids. I think this is maybe my my son or my daughter's 3-sectional laying around the house. But ideally, for me, being a little bit bigger hands, it'd be a bigger diameter. And the length of a 3-sectional, if it fits you right, would be if you extended it and let the bottom touch the ground. If you reach up, it should be in the proximity of your palm. So we can tell that this one is just not long enough for me. But it'll work okay for today to teach us the moves of the 3-sectional form. So when you're starting the form, you're going to hold it in both hands, and you want to hold it in such a way where the middle section is on the bottom, and the two loose sections are on the top. So you kind of set it up that way, and then you're going to grab it. And when you go to grab your weapon to start the form or to fight, what you're doing is I'm letting my right hand grab near the hardware, the metal portion of this stick that's in the front. And my left hand is going to grab near the metal section of this one that's in the back. So when I grab, I'm able to go into a fighting position right away. What you don't want to do is end up grabbing and ending up like this. You want to end up where the sticks are up on the top, similar to how we would hold a guard in empty hands. So when you're starting, again, the middle section's on the bottom, and you want to be able to grab and go right into that position. So you should try that a bunch of times. Just go from having it about waist level and going right into this guard position, and get to a point where that just becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it. It just happens easily, and you can do it 10 out of 10 times. You end up like that, and you don't end up like that, because that'll throw you off. That's how the form starts. You want to start really strong. The salutation part is us bowing to our opponent, and because we are fighting, we do want to show respect. This is a fellow martial artist like you who's trained hard, and you want to show respect to that person, but you do watch them, which is different from how we usually bow. So as we do the bow in the beginning, holding it here, I'm going to look at my opponent, I'm going to bow, and I'm going to tense up. And the idea is to show, even on the bow, some strength. You're showing that you're ready to fight. You're showing that you're prepared, and also maybe in the first few steps of this form, you're not actually making contact. You're just posturing. You're just showing some of your ability, some of your technique, with the hopes that maybe this person now doesn't want to fight. They see how aggressive you are, they see how fast you are, they see how agile you are, how strong your stance work is, and they go, this person's going to kill me, and they can bow out. So that was an old tradition in Chinese martial arts for people that were high ranking, that were well trained, kind of an idea of chivalry, like the European knights. You would announce your family name, you would announce your Sifu, your instructor, or Shifu, depending on what dialect you're using. You would announce your style of martial arts, and then you would show, maybe 5 or 6 moves, and you would show it as viciously as you could. And again, maybe that was a way to avoid conflict, because one person could bow out. The other person would be doing the same thing. This is true of this form. So the Chinese spear is showing you some of their technique. You're showing some of your 3-sectional, and then the form starts. If you look at the two forms, the 3-sectional and the Chinese spear tends to be the instigator. That's the one who's really doing a lot of striking, coming at you all the time. And you certainly are hitting them, but in most regard, you're responding. You're the one who's more on the defensive side. You're blocking, parrying, controlling your opponent. But the spear tends to be in this set, tends to be the instigator. So we're going to do that bow, and then after we do the bow, we'll go right into that fighting grip. That fighting grip can be done where you pull your hands back away a little bit, and then you drive your hands forward. So you're trying to get a little bit of a sound effect there. You're pulling your hands back towards your hip, and then you're driving your hands out. You're driving them out where they line up with your opponent. So this is kind of like the sights of a pistol. Your back sight, front sight, lined up with your opponent. Both arms are going to be bent a little bit, and we're going to do that again with a strong bow, and then into that position. As we go into that position, we take our left foot, we take a little step forward, and then we come into a deep cat as we do that motion. So we're going into a cat stance after we bow. So bow, and then cat. And again, the louder you can make that sound, the better. You definitely want to get the 3 sectional that has those extra links. The next part of the form, after you do the cat stance, is you're going to be doing a series of circles. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my right hand and I'm making a circular motion. And that's covering my head, my torso, groin area, protecting me. I'm also using my left hand to do the same thing, but they're going different directions. Huh? This one's going to the side, this one's going to the other side. And I'm going to intertwine those circles. I'm going to use a right circle, and then I'll use a left circle, and then a right, and then a left. And you can speed that up. It makes it really hard for someone to launch an attack because it's constantly something moving in front of you as a blockade or an obstacle. So once you do the cat stance and you square off to your opponent, you're going to do a right circle, a left circle, a right circle, and then a left circle. It's 4 in total. So from the cat, 1, 2, 3, 4. When I do the 4th one, I'll change my cat. So I'll go from a right cat, I'll move toward the spear guy into a left cat. So I'm changing my stance, and that happens on the last one. So right as I hit my left cat, I lock into position with my left hand down low and my right hand up high. It's a very classic guard position we use with 3 sectional. 1 high for hitting high and hitting or blocking high, 1 low for hitting low or blocking low. Really cool thing about this weapon is that it's just a great improvement over a staff or a spear, because this you can easily conceal because it's foldable, right? You're not supposed to do that, by the way, it's illegal, but in the old days you could conceal the weapon. And also because of these 2 articulations, these 2 joints, you can do a lot more with this weapon. You can block your face while at the same time striking your opponent. You can block down low for a kick while at the same time protecting your head. So you have a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of ways you can use this weapon, even more than a nunchaku. And because of the 2 articulations, if you swung this thing like you would swing a staff to get distance, to hit someone at a great distance, you can hit a lot harder with this. The staff comes in a single pull and the tip is moving very fast. But when you have these 2 joints, it compounds that speed. It takes longer for the weapon to actually get to the target, but by the time it gets there, that thing is moving, because the first pull moves, then it's like a jackknife. Second pull swings around and moves, and then the third pull moves around and hits. So it's really going fast. So a really cool weapon. You can fight in very close, and you can fight very far away, and you can fight in the middle. So I'm really happy to introduce this to you. And again, this form is just a way for you to practice all the basic moves of a 3 sectional, all the different blocks, all the different ways of hitting, all the different ways of moving. So to review, we have the bow, we have a right cat, guard, and then we're going to do 4 circles. We'll do a right, we'll do a left, we'll do a right, we do a left cat, lock in. And that's the guard. Left hand low, right hand high. The next thing is where we finally engage the spear guy. The spear guy now has done some posturing too, and is now flying through the air and coming down, trying to crash down on top of your head with the Chinese spear. So to respond to that, you are going to use a cross block. You're going to have your left hand on top of your right, and you're going to come up and catch his spear, not the spearhead, but the pole, the Chinese waxwood in between these two poles. And as you do that, to add some impetus or power to it, you're going to step in from your cat forward towards your opponent into a bow as you do that block. So you're meeting force with force. He's coming in at you with a lot of energy. He's flying through the air, and you want to add some energy to it so it won't collapse. So you're stepping in a little bit to the side to avoid your head going in line with the attack, and you're doing this cross block. So we have bow, we have cat stance. We move into the next cat, and we're going to step in, bow, block. And even when you do blocks, you're trying to make sound. You want this to be the noisiest weapon that you've ever done so far. And again, that's part of the strategy. It's to cause more of an effect, to cause shock for your opponent. So we see this form so far from the back. Sometimes it's easy to learn. When you look from the back or in a video, you can see what the person's doing. So we turn around, we're going to bow, we're going to do the cat stance, then right circle, left circle, right circle, cat, step in, block. So what happens after you block, the spear guy's not happy. He hits you once, he wants to hit you again. He pulls his spear back and he stabs it right at your midline. So after you block, you're going to take your right pole, which is the one on the bottom, and you're going to bring it down to block that attack coming at your lower body. The other hand, though, it's kind of cool. It's up here protecting up high. So you're going to have your block come down, and you're going to move away from his attack into a left cat. So you're going to go cat stance. So here's what we have so far. We have the bow, cat stance, right, left, left. We're going to step into a bow, block, and we're going to come back into a left cat. We're going to block down, a low strike. He tries to hit you, it gets knocked around. He goes around his body, and he comes in and tries to hit you on this side. So after you block, you see that thing coming around towards your left. You're going to step into a bow. You're going to try to jam it. You're going to move into a bow with your left foot. And you're going to take the middle part of your weapon and bring it out this way. And the middle part's going to stop that impact. And it's coming right at your throat. And you put up a blockade. Many ways of blocking with the 3 sectional is parries, there's outward blocks, inward blocks, there's center blocks, there's blocks that come up this way, there's blocks that come down this way, there's blocks that come across, many different variations. It's a great flexible and very capable weapon. So this form is done to try to teach you some of those different ways of moving. Here's what we have so far. So we have the bow, cat stance, and then we have those spins, those little circles. 2, 3, 4. We have a hard bow, block. We have a cat, left cat, block low. And we go into a bow again, middle block. And finally, you're tired of getting hit. The guys hit you over the head, tried to stab you, came around and tried to cut your throat. You're tired of getting hit, you're going to attack. The way you attack is interesting. After you block, you take your right foot, you cross step towards your opponent behind your other leg. Cross step towards your opponent, and you bring your weapon as you cross step out toward the guy as a guard. You block them, you go cross step, guard, you rotate around and do a hard bow. And as you do the hard bow, your left hip turns, and you hit the guy in two places at the same time. You hit him in the head with your top weapon, and in the rib cage with your bottom weapon. It has a lot of power. You did a big windup, right? You did a 360. You had a block there. You cross-stepped. It's like the Chinese spring. You wound up the spring, and then you flex your legs. You unwind, and with a lot of energy, crack. But then he goes and hits you again. He's doing a lot of hitting. He's going to try and kick you. So you step away with your right foot to another bow. You step back, bow. And you do another one of these blocks. Remember you did one in the beginning. This time you're using it to go low to stop a kick. Then he takes his spear, comes in, tries to hit you in the neck again. As he tries to hit you in the neck, you do an outward block. It's really this one that's blocking, but you bring the other one up too. So you did two low and then two high. And again, everything is done really quickly, and then you're kind of relaxed, and then you tense up. So you get that fast motion. It's powerful, makes a lot of noise. So you can see, not an easy form to learn because it doesn't have that symmetry, it doesn't have a lot of rhyme or reason, but it's really cool, and it fits very well together with the Chinese spear. And that's really the benefit of these two forms. You have to learn them, you have to get them down, spear first maybe, and then 3-sectional, really get it solid. But then you want to fight with it. You want to find somebody who's like you, very capable, well practiced, and you want to slowly start to fight through it with each other. And then eventually, if you know the other student really well, you can start to go at each other very powerfully and very fast. And it's relatively safe because you know what's coming. It's a structured form, but it really teaches you to have great reaction, a lot of courage, because you're taking a little risk. It's fast, it's intense, and it does teach you that ability to right on the spot improvise and get back into the fight. You don't really get that when you're just doing it by yourself with the 3-sectional or the spear, a little bit, but when you do it with somebody, that chaos theory is magnified and things do go wrong, and you want to have an ability to, again, think where you are in the form and get right back into the fight. Okay, let's review again. We have our 3-sectional ready. We've got to make sure the middle one's on the bottom. Do our bow. Cat stance. Right, left, right. Here comes a left cat. Left cat. Come in, hard bow, cross block, left cat, downward block. Bow stance again, middle block. And now I'm going to rotate around. I'm going to cross step right behind left. Cross step. I'm going to turn. Okay. And you can see that my thumbs are behind. And that's good, right? That's going to give me more pressure behind the line of force. So you always want to think about thumbs not here, but thumbs helping you out. So after I hit him, if he tries to kick me, I'll step back with my right foot to a hard bow. I'll do a cross block. Then we did an outward block to block a shot coming at us high. Then there's going to be one coming really low. A spear's going to come flying under a leg. We're going to do a downward block to block that low shot. But at the same time, we're going to lift up our left leg into a high crane. So we see that coming. We block with our left hand. We come up crane stance to block it. So block low, crane stance. When you do Chinese spear and 3-sectional and you do a crane, usually you're not doing it to kick somebody. So you're not fighting, you're not pointing your knee at a low combat level. Usually using your leg as a shield. So when you lift up your knee in a crane in a Chinese form, you want to lift your knee up really high. You want it to be about solar plex to sternum height. So your tibia, the lower part of your leg, acts like a bony Spartan shield to protect your midline. So you want to lift your knee really high. And the next part, the last part of this little series of this video, after we do the left crane and the left block, We're going to then jump off of our right foot, and we're going to land in a right bow with our right foot behind us. We're going to shift direction now. I was going towards you guys, toward the camera, but now I'm going to drive my weapon off to my right side, about head level. In my other hand, instead of just dangling it, it's going to come up between me and my opponent. So when I landed, I want to end up there. So for my left crane, I'll jump up, and when I land, I want to time it. So right when my foot lands in the bow, I want to get into a low bow stance off a guard, and I'll hit the guy in the head. And that's going to be the last part of this video, which is about a quarter in. It's a long form, but again, it does match the 3 sectional exactly. I'm trying to remember the amount of strikes or steps in these two forms. I think we're about 76 altogether, I believe. It's a lot of steps, but we're going to try to break it up, make it easier to learn. Remember that this, if you're taking your brown, going from brown to black, first degree black belt, this comes at kind of a rough time for you. You've done about half of your black belt exam, which is a lot of self-defense techniques, a ton of kicks, and a lot of forms. And you just showed something very challenging called kata exercise, where you did 6 katas all together back to back at a high rate of speed. So you're probably pretty winded, a little hypoxic, like not enough oxygen in the brain. So if this weapon is kind of sketchy, like you just, you kind of know it, you watch the video, you learned it, you kind of know it, it won't work for you on that test because you're just too wiped out. But if you really know this set, if you've done it over and over and over and over and over and over and over, you're going to be fine, because it's got to become, the expression is muscle memory, but it's really not in your muscle, it's in your brain. Your neurons have these little projections called dendrites, and they end up connecting like wires. And that's a permanent memory that takes very little brain power for those signals to now go from one neuron to the next. And your brain can zip through this kata really, really well, even when it has a low amount of oxygen or a low amount of blood sugar, because you're wiped out, you're still okay. It's like if you ran a marathon and you're just exhausted, and I said, what's your middle name? You could do it, no problem. Do the alphabet for me. You could do it, no problem, because that stuff's just ingrained in your head. This has to be the same. Chinese spear has to be the same. And you could say that the real test of you being a black belt is your ability on that black belt exam to show a really solid and powerful, confident 3-sectional form. Because this one's a little harder, I think, than the Chinese spear, and it comes at that time when you are wiped out. So when you're wiped out, you got nothing left, can you still dig deep, and can you pull out an excellent form worthy of your black belt test? And the answer is going to be yes, if you've done a tremendous amount of repetition. So let's do today at least 5 reps of these steps that you've learned so far. Really get it down, and then before you go to the next video, really make sure that you feel solid with this. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and look forward to watching your black belt test.